Hello, everybody. This is Paul Herman, the Prince of Motivation, and also host of Zaka Presents My Journey. We're creating this vulnerable and positive platform where you could get inspired and motivated from different leaders from your community. After sitting down with founder Gregory Maurice last week, I went to meet the rest of the team. So without any further ado, I want you guys to help me welcome to the show Zaka's co-founder, Francois Jean Noel. Welcome, Francois.
Thank you, Paul. Thanks for having me. How are you doing?
Doing fine. Just enjoying this lovely day, and just happy to have you on the show right now to kind of give your experience and kind of talk to the listeners about this whole Zaka movement and things that you guys got going on over there. But before we dive into the whole Zaka thing, I really want to get the listeners to understand your journey. If you could tell us a little about yourself, where you're from, originally, and where you are currently right now.
So currently, I'm in Florida. So I moved to Florida a year ago. So right when the pandemic started. But prior to that, I was in California for 9 years. But to give people a wider understanding, of my background. So I grew up in Haiti. So that's where I went to high school. So I was out there for 18 years. And then after high school, I came straight in the state for college. So I went to undergrad in New Jersey. I went to Rutgers, where I studied engineering. Then right after undergrad, I moved to Boston for a job. And I stayed in Boston for 3 years. And while being in Boston, that's when I went to grad school. I went to Worcester Polytechnic Institute for system engineering. And that's how my career in corporate America actually kicked off and started in Boston. And I ended up, in California. And I had a job out there in California where I travel a lot for work. And now it was time to be closer to the family. So I decided to move back to Florida.
Okay. Now you mentioned that you born and raised in Haiti, right? And you came.
I was born in New York, but I grew up in Haiti. Yes.
Okay. So now living in Haiti, to come back to America and if you go to school. So you say you went to Rutgers. How was that that transition? Coming from Haiti and the school system in Haiti to coming out to New Jersey to actually going to Rutgers University. How was that transition for you?
It was challenging, and I'll tell you. So the school, when I went to Haiti in high school, it's a French system. So we study in French. Everything is in French. Then after coming to the state to go to college was really challenging in a sense that I did not know what I was getting into. It was my first time studying in English. And to be quite honest, I cried a few times. So I did cry a few times. And I remember the first book I opened was C++. I don't know if you're familiar with engineering terms, but it's like a programming book. That was my first English book I opened. And I still have that book till today. And it's probably one of the first class I ever had a C for. Because first of all, I never took programming in high school. And then it was also adapting to a new system and also studying in the new language. So it was challenging.
When you came from Haiti, was any of your family members here? Or were you the first to come from Haiti because I know you said you were born in New York, but then you moved to Haiti. Did all your family members transfer back to Haiti, or did some stay up here in New York?
So if you're talking about my mom, my dad, and my sister, they were still in Haiti. And I was here by myself in college.
Wow. That's definitely a little scare right there when you take away from the nest and you're like, all right, I'm on my own, but you're definitely in a distant place. So it's not like your parents are like a stop away, they're
no. It wasn't. And the part that made it more challenging is because it was a new system for me. So even when I was going through, the difficult times, it was hard to even communicate that to my parents because they are not familiar with the system. I was fortunate enough, they'll provide me the financial support and the moral support. But as far as guidance and things I need to do, things I need to watch out for, um, I did not have that because they were not familiar with the system.
Mm-hmm.
So
Definitely trying to break that down to them and kind of let them know that, the system is a lot different from what it is in Haiti. Now, in Haiti, what attracted you to engineering? Like, obviously, you came from Haiti over to the States, to go to Rutgers, and you already knew that your major was going to be engineering, or did you fall in love with engineering when you got here?
So why did I pick engineering? That's a question I get asked a lot. And I have an entire philosophy about it. So I remember I was a senior in high school. I did not know what I wanted to do. And my mom, she came home with a pile of college application because the Caribbean background is like, you have to go to school, you have to do this. That's basically how we were raised. So not going to school was not a choice. You had to. So I started filling out the application, and when I got to the part where they were asking me, pick your major, I did not know what I wanted to do, to be quite honest. One thing I knew about myself is I was, pretty handy. My dad was an engineer. So I used to go to his office all the time, work with them. So going to engineering, I thought I'll be working with my hands. So I look around and I remember I look at my parents. I asked my mom, hey, what do you want me to do? And she said, I want you be a doctor. I was like, no, doctor is not for me. And I asked my dad, and my dad was like, well, I will not tell you what to do because if I end up telling you to do something and you can't feed your family later on, I don't want you to come back to me and ask me for money. So that was the joke.
That's a wise man right there.
Yeah. So I ended up, I picked up engineering because I look around, I was like, you can't go wrong with science. It'll be a way for me to build a strong foundation. So I picked engineering, and I don't regret it because I was able to, really enjoy my way through college and my first job, and I think that's what did it for me.
Now, when you got your first job, like, could you explain a little bit more to the listeners? Like, how was that first job? So now you've graduated from college, you're very excited, so that means you're going to be staying in the US. You're not going back to Haiti. Like, how was that experience for you?
So getting my first job was an entire process because I remember in my junior year, and I didn't have anything on my resume. And I was like, okay, so if I go to look for a job my senior year, what's going to happen? So I started brainstorming and, doing research. And actually, when my first job ended up being at Verizon for summer, where I was, at the time, it was like DSL was a big thing. I was installing DSL at people house. But if you look at the job description for that summer job, it was really a job for high school students. So, but the fact that it was a technical job, I told myself, you know what, I will do it. So I did it and put it on my resume. And in the following summer, I was able to get an internship at Verizon Wireless in Texas. So I remember that summer, I took a car from New York and drove it all the way down to Texas, just for the job, just to have something on my resume. And then after that, it was time for me to, graduation and find a job, it was quite easy, to be quite honest, just for the fact that I had something on my resume. I went through a few interviews and I landed a job. I think around February timeframe, I already had a job lined up for when I was going to graduate in around May.
That's good. That's always a good thing when you have something lined up like that. Because, some people graduate from college, they still looking, to find that actual spot. So that's good that you actually had, that experience. Because like I said, some people, especially, coming from a distant country, might not even work like that for them. So that just goes to show
Yes.
the work ethic that you have.
Yeah, and not only work ethic, it's all also show that, you know, it's when you're part of a system, you have to plan around that system to be able to adapt. And it goes back to what I told you initially, is like not having, you know, someone around to lead the way, to kind of like guide you and coach you, especially at a young age, you know, being in college by yourself, you know, with all those distractions that comes with it. And to still, you know, finding a way to find a job after you graduate college, it was not easy. It was definitely not easy.
Now, this with you talking about this, this kind of goes into the whole Zaka. You know, how did you get involved with Zaka? How did you connect with Greg, and how did that vision start for you?
You know, so I connected with Greg a few years ago through a mutual friend. So that mutual friend, we went to high school together, and then he took a trip to California, and he told me, "Hey, I'm in California, come hang out." So that's how I first connected with Greg, and right off the bat, we felt like, you know, we knew each other for a long time, and one day he called me, and he was complaining about his job. You already have told you that story where, you know, he felt like, you know, he wanted to chase a purpose, uh, where he wanted to give back to the community and do something for minorities. And he drove down to San Diego, and he was like, "Hey, I have this idea. What do you think about it?" And I was like, "You know what? It sounds great." And then we started sharing our own stories, like, you know, similar to the story I told you about me going to college and all the uh, hard time I had, you know, adapting to the system. And we realized, you know, there's a way here where we can help and give back to the community. And the idea started as something related to, you know, music and videos, and and mature to becoming what Zaka is today. And and it was, you know, he grabbed me. He was like, "Hey, can you help me out?" I was like, "Yeah, what do you need?" And then I just grab a Excel sheet, and that's how we started, you know, shaping the idea.
And it's an amazing idea, and obviously individuals across the world. You know, how do you feel like you have the ability now to influence people across the world?
So the way we will do that is definitely going to be by the content of the platform and staying focused on the purpose. So if you look at the United States, you know, it's a country based on immigrant. So there's so many immigrants from different background in the world, from Asia, Europe, the Caribbean, South Africa, that truly contribute to the society. At the same time, they don't have a way to truly reach back to their community and share their stories to be able to motivate people, inspire people. I personally wish I had that platform when I first came here by myself in college, where I could have, you know, be inspired by other people's stories instead of trying to build my path by myself with no roadmap. So I think that's the way that, you know, we are going to help the other generation, where, you know, we learn from each other's mistake, we learn from each other's stories, and trying to create something better for the future and the next generation to come.
Now you mentioned roadmap, which is very important. I mean, obviously you had come from Haiti, you went to, you know, various different distinguished universities, graduated, got your first job. Like again, you were developing your own roadmap if that was the case. Along that time, like who were you looking up to as like someone you could look up to as a leader or as a mentor? Did you even have a mentor during that time?
Paul, I'll be quite honest with you. I never had a mentor along that way, but I just knew that I never wanted to fail. So the way I did that is I will set myself some milestones, and I'll make sure that I figured out how to reach those milestones. It might be something as simple, when I graduate college, I know that I need to find a job. And I'll give you an example of the milestone I set myself. I knew I wanted to go to grad school, but I told myself if I wait 2 years after I graduate, I won't go to grad school because I won't be motivated. So I give myself a year off, and then I started grad school. Um, and and from working my first job, it was quick to see that a way to you advance is by grabbing on opportunities. So that's why I was at a position for 3 years, and every 3 years, if you were to look at my resume, you'll see that I kind of like move around and take different responsibility within that same company. So at the end of the day, it was me finding something that works for me, and that works with what I want, my goal, and what I want to accomplish. But not most around for the past 4 years. That's when I reach a point where I'm like, oh, you know what? I need a mentor now. Because I got to a point where now I felt like, to get to the next level, or if I want to do something bigger and better, it's beyond me, because I was able to do whatever I could for myself, if that makes sense.
No, that makes perfect sense, and it's what you just said is very inspirational, and it goes to show, like, that Caribbean background that you have. Like, you remember how you said about, you have to go to school. Like, you use some of those, principles and practices from the Caribbean background. And that's what I want to kind of talk about a little bit more. Like, what are some of the things that you've taken from that Caribbean background, being an immigrant coming here to the States, and finding a way to succeed? Like, what were some of those things that you've taken away from that Caribbean background growing up that has helped you catapult you in your career?
I think one of the key thing was is the resilience, and not taking everything for granted. So I know that, like, I was fortunate enough, like I said, like, my parents were able to help me financially with college, and I saw, all the efforts they doing to be able to help me with tuition and stuff. One of the first thing is I didn't want to disappoint them, that was one of the first thing that got me through college. Then after college, when I started being on my own, it was truly the motivation, the discipline, and truly, most importantly, be proud of myself, and also, have my family and my young cousin and all the young people in my family looking up to me. I just wanted to give them something to be proud of, and also be a resource to them where, if when they come to the state, and if they have to go through college and they have to do certain things, they can reach out to me for advice, and not have to go through the mental exercise and the stress I had to go through myself. Which align to what we are trying to provide the community with Zaka.
True. Very, very valuable, very valuable. Now, Francois, out of all the things you got going on, you got engineering, you have Zaka, you're inspiring, people of your community, your family members. What do you do for fun? Like, what kind of hobbies do you have going on over here? Like, when you're not in the office, when you're not engineering, what are we doing?
Oh, I'll tell you, we play soccer.
Yes.
We get involved. We're never gonna let the ball go away. So we do play soccer. And I used to, back in Boston, I used to, do a Boys and Girl Club, which takes like 2 hours of your time every Friday. Do that. Lately, I pick up like golfing through. Actually, picking up golfing was an interesting story, because we don't have golf in the Caribbean. Well, in Haiti, I should say. So it was one of my boss at the time in Boston. He was missing somebody, and he was like, "Hey, do you know how to play golf?" I was like, I don't know how to, but I can try. And so that's how it all started. So aside from that, I think it's really important to create a schedule, and to be able to fit what's important to you, and at the same time to be able to take care of yourself mentally and physically. So get out there, exercise, socialize with people, and so I do find time to balance it out.
That's good. That's good. I mean, obviously, when you're moving as much as you are, obviously having that quality time to spend with your family, your close friends is always important. You know, I feel like you with that Caribbean background, family has always been a big thing for the Caribbean, culture. So I see that you still keep that and value that. You know, to kind of conclude a little bit, on our interview, we wanted to ask you this question. Where do you see yourself in the next 5 years? Like, obviously you've been doing some successful things over these past couple of years. And like I said, from college to your first job to where you are now currently, and obviously your position within Zaka. But where do you see yourself in the next 5 years? What is Francois looking to do?
In the next 5 years, I plan to definitely see Zaka grow into the vision that we have for Zaka. So I want to see that it become a platform that live up to his purpose, as far as helping the community, inspiring the young generation, and being a reference to help guide the immigrant community through all the hard time and hardship, by learning from each other, by inspiring each other. And in the next 5 years, I plan to be truly part of that and help grow it to what it needs to be.
Okay. Well, Francois, I want to thank you again for just joining us on the show today and kind of expressing your journey, inspiring us through your words, and also through like I said, your journey, from coming from the Caribbean to where you are currently right now. And the things that you guys are doing at Zaka, like I said, and everyone does know, you guys are doing a phenomenal job with that. I think the one last thing I want to kind of leave it off with is that for more information like this, I know individuals could definitely go to www.zakaconnect.com to hear more interviews like this and to hear more of your story. I just want to again thank you again for joining us on the show. Is there any last things you want to say to the listeners?
No, I want to say, thank you for your time, Paul. And if anything, I want to say is, they should go to the website and feel free to drop us an email, and then keep an eye out for what's coming out. So we're working on a lot of exciting things. We also have some great ideas. So it's going to be fun, and it's going to be a road where we all going to travel that road together. And we all going to make it successful together as a community and help each other out.
That's right. So again, guys, you heard it here first. If you need more information on Zaka, definitely go to zakaconnect.com. Again, that's www.zakaconnect.com. And if you want to see more and hear more interviews like this and hear more about Francois and his journey, definitely go visit it. I want to thank you guys for all listening. Until the next time, guys.